somehow I still have 20 works in progress left. If you're wondering what all of this is about, at the end of 2025, I set myself a challenge to tackle my massive WIP pile. Some were saved, some were let go, and a couple didn't quite go to plan. But having moved 9 off the chest of drawers out of the original 29, it is time to get to grips with the rest. I haven't touched a single one of my works in progress since the last video, which was sort of the beginning of January. It is now nearly February, and there are still 20 that I need to get through. These are sorted into projects I need to finish, projects I need to frog, projects I need to fix, and projects I need to just figure out. And by far the largest category is the stuff that I just need to figure out. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to that. First thing I'm going to tackle, and this will be quite a nice, hopefully quite a nice easy one, is this silk shirt, which I think is going to be pretty obvious what needs to be done with this one. It has a rip right along the seam at the back here, and I am going to use hemming web to bring it back together as a bit of fabric, but I also thought that it might be a chance to have some kind of like delicate little embroidery there as well. Guys, I'm getting such good use out of these old pants. It's absolutely obscene. I heard once that the majority of sewing is actually just ironing, and that is honestly true to my experience. Hemming web requires you to fuse 2 bits of fabric together. So effectively I had to take the shirt and take a patch and then use the hemming web to bring them together so that it looked like the shirt was all one whole. My plan was always to do embroidery over the top of the seam, so I wasn't particularly neat about it. And then I picked out some embroidery thread from these colours and used my trusty embroidery hoop to put it all in place and got started with this groundbreaking rose design, one of which took all evening for me to do. So in an effort to break up some of the monotony, I thought I would do something else in the meantime. This is from the fix pile. It is a dress where the hem has completely come down. You can see the fold where it was originally supposed to go up. And I have been thinking for a while that I wanted to sew it up, but I wasn't really 100% sure how to do that with the black without it being really obvious. Obviously I could have used black thread, but I think you'd still be able to see it. So this is another hemming web job, and actually there's another fix project that I'm also going to use hemming web for, so I'll show you that right now as well. Here it is. Same problem, which is that the bottom hem has completely come down, so I need to just fold it back up and have it stick itself to itself. This one is a skirt that I got from a vintage shop, and I didn't realise that it was actual leather that's been dyed, and I stuck it in the washing machine, and then it kind of shrank and all the glue that was keeping the hem up unstuck. And also, so I had to like tease it out as the leather so that it would actually still fit, but it's definitely a bit shorter than it used to be. So both of these are going to get the exact same treatment, hemming web on the hem. Oh boy, here we go, ironing yet again. But despite all my complaining, this is actually a really, really simple thing to do, and the black dress took absolutely no time at all. Black is not a normal staple in my wardrobe, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But the blue skirt, I definitely anticipated getting a lot more wear out of. It's just that this hemming web solution wasn't quite what I expected it to be. You obviously typically don't iron leather because it will just get really hot, and I'll let you have a think about what warm hot leather might smell like. But this was not a pleasant olfactory or sensory experience. Conventional wisdom states that you should just put another bit of fabric in between the iron and the leather. And that is what I started off doing, and then it just did not stick the hemming web and the hem together whatsoever. So this is a bit of a hack job, but I did persevere and I did continue doing it despite almost all my senses telling me that it was a bad call. Pretty sure I managed to burn myself on that. Very clever. That was really simple and easy to do, and I've had this waiting to be done for probably about a year. So the work of 10 minutes to get it done, and I think it looks really neat as well. If I remember, I'll put a little video of me wearing it up to the side. I don't normally do pure invisible mending, but I thought this dress needed it. Honestly, it's actually it's my funeral dress. So obviously the last thing that you want if you do go to a funeral is to be thinking about having to hem your dress up. You just want to know what you're going to wear and not have to think about anything like that. So it's been something that I've been knowing that I've needed to do for quite a long time. Fingers crossed, won't need very soon. Blue skirt was maybe a little bit less successful. I think that obviously leather and hemming web are not best suited to each other. They're probably not meant to go together. So I'm not sure whether I've actually secured the hem or if I've just really heavily ironed it so that it's quite stiff and doesn't move. I think in some instances it is not fully stuck down. So I am going to call this done, but I kind of have it in the back of my mind as I was doing that having like a running stitch, maybe like a yellow Doc Martens style running stitch round the hem might be something that I'm interested in. We'll have to see whether I like the vibe of that later on. But yeah, done. 2 done. Okay, this one is going to be a little bit more exciting than the ones that I've done so far. This is an old French like letterpress drawer. Maybe I've not got that right. But basically, it would have had in these little boxes, it would have had, I think, stamps for a print press. So, and I think it's called French because these drawers were in like French printing presses. Citation may be needed. I'll look that up properly. But I have wanted to turn it into a kind of hanging trinket chest for a really long time. It has at the back of it some like old gross bits of paper, so you might be able to see where I've not yet taken them out. And what I've been doing is kind of soaking the paper and then gradually scraping it out so that it's taken off. Sadly, there's no screws or sidey bits at all. That would mean that I could just kind of like lift the grid away from the back and then take the paper out. So it has to be little cabinet hole by cabinet hole that I'm taking this paper out. So I've still got a little bit of that to finish off and to take off. And also I want to kind of sand it down maybe and give it a bit of a varnish. And then it's going to go up in this room. So we have some wallpaper that I'm going to put into a select number of the tray holes. I need to think of a better way of saying this. Into the little shelves on my trinket cabinet to make it a little bit more fitting with the room and maybe a little bit more decorative. And then I can put like little things in it, like little shells and other fun items that take my fancy. We also have to hang it up, which I don't know how that's going to happen, but my partner assures me that with a couple of brackets and some heavy screws, we'll be all good. So, fingers crossed. So I did go and find out a little bit about these letterpress trays, and effectively you would have stacks and stacks of trays one on top of each other that you could then pull out and find individual typeset letters within the tray, which would then be put together with other typeset letters in order to make newspapers and make books in sort of traditional letterpress printing. I also found that there are absolutely tons of these available if you want to get one secondhand, which kind of makes sense because they look like they're pretty hard wearing, and obviously overnight it went from there being a huge demand for all of these to store all of your typeset letters to effectively not needing them at all. And they're quite beautiful items. I also found another person online who had done basically exactly the same thing that I'm doing here, which is they'd sprayed at the back to get paper off of the drawer and then pulled it out. And she also said it was hugely time consuming. With this one that I've got, I've been chipping away at it for, I dare to think, how long. So I really only had a few left to take out, but trust me when I say it has been a long journey before we even got to this video. Eventually I did manage to get all of the paper out, but even so there's still little bits kind of hidden behind the grid that are just really difficult, and the perfectionist in me just kept pulling away at them. But we got to a point where the big chunks of the paper were gone, and then it was time to sand down the wood, which kind of prepped it for varnishing. At that point, honestly, I had had enough and the evening had fast gotten away with me. So I thought it was time to give this project a little bit of a break and again come back to it when I was feeling strong, mentally strong. If you're enjoying the video at this point, then I would really appreciate it if you'd give it a like. That will greatly speed my recovery. I actually can't believe that sanding didn't ruin my nails. They've grown out a little bit, but I just need to get them done. Welcome to my work away trip. This is a little bit gloomy, so apologies for the lighting, but I have been making some progress and I thought that I would just quickly show you. I took away the sewn up the shirt that I had fixed that rip in the back, which I'm doing the embroidery on, and this is what it currently looks like. So you can see the vision. It's a kind of rose design, obviously, with this leaf that I've already embroidered on, and then you might be able to see, or probably not, but I actually drew on with like a fabric marker where the additional flowers are going to go. So it's not finished yet, obviously, but I took it away here because I've kind of been struggling to bring myself to work on it. I think if I did this again, I would have aimed for like an invisible seam, and I tend, as I say, not to do too much invisible mending because I'm kind of lazy and because it takes quite a lot more patience than I tend to want to give to it, and you also have to be really neat. But I think if I had done this properly, I actually would have just tried to do an invisible mend with the hemming web and then call it a day and then let it be that way, rather than making the mend a feature. And the reason for that is because I've kind of messed up with like the embroidery placement, because this is the seam just here, and obviously I've done it sort of over. There will be bits that kind of come down over the seam, but part of why I didn't do it just directly on the seam is like, this is hard work. It's a lot of work on the fingers, it's a lot of work like pushing it through the fabric, and that is A, not very fun as an experience to do the embroidery, and then B, I also am like, I just can't get over this feeling that I'm doing such damage to this really soft, lovely, flowy silk by trying to force this embroidery thread through it. The embroidery thread is definitely too thick,
Like, I think the needle that I'm using is too thick, but I'm kind of like too far in at this point. I can't change the weight of the embroidery thread, it would just end up looking really stupid. So the only way is up, guys. The only way is up. The other reason why I thought I would do a little clip just now is because I came and obviously like packed up for my work away trip and took only a couple of things, and I was like, oh, I haven't worn this dress in a while, and then I put it on and the hem for the dress is also down, but only like at the front. I don't think it looks too noticeable. I'll do like a little mirror clip in a sec so you can see. But yes, we have one further work in progress, which is kind of, it was inevitable, wasn't it? Because I started the whole series with 29, so now I eventually actually have 30. But yeah, I think that means we are net one completed with having done 2 and found another. But this will be a quick one, hopefully. But it's a bit annoying because I have to wear this dress all day. I don't have an alternative, so that's it.
Yeah, apologies on this one for the very classy bathroom shot, but shout out to these boots, which have literally carried me through the entirety of this winter. When I was back from the work trip, I continued to ruin the silk shirt by adding this embroidery to it. Although I think it's starting to shape up and look quite nice here. I think that you can see what I'm going for, and hopefully it will stay and it won't just create more holes and less structural integrity. Ultimately, the point of adding the embroidery was decorative, but I did think that it might keep it together a bit more and mean that the rip just doesn't reopen. I also managed to get to the point where I was varnishing my trinket cabinet, and this again, because of the perfectionism, did take quite a while. You actually have to do 3 coats of varnish, which I did not realize, and I didn't even manage to get 1 done. So, a bit of a spoiler for how this video ends, but Trinket cabinet will have to roll over into the next part of the series because it just wasn't possible to get it done. But then it just means that the anticipation is even better. So I bet you can't wait to see exactly how it looks at the end. Shirt is finished! Oh, it nearly broke me, but the embroidery is actually done on the back of the shirt. And I'm going to show you it. But before I do, I thought I might be able to sneak one last project into the end of this video. So I'm going to show you that. I'm actually just laughing as I look at this, but these are, if you can tell, a pair of knitted shorts. They are, I think, called Ripple Buttshorts, and they're Jessie made. What I think I did with these is I had 2 skeins of this yarn, which is Life in the Long Grass Aran weight yarn, and I remember that the colour was called Viking, because who's not going to remember that? And I followed the pattern for the majority of it, did like a try on, realised that there was no way it was going to fit over my hips at the size that I chose. And the context is that I chose that size because I had only 2 skeins of it. Bought a 3rd skein and then just extended out and out and out, which means that I've got these kind of like lederhosen style looking shorts. And eventually tried them on and they did fit me, but there was absolutely no way in the world I was ever going to wear them anywhere, out, indoors, anywhere at all. So it's such a shame to, again, have this yarn that I think is really pretty, that I really like, really soft, not used for something that I am actually going to wear. So this is a frog. I have 2 things I need to do today, and one of them is to frog this, and then the second thing is to run 24 kilometers. So we'll see which one I end up doing first. But regardless, next time you see me, I will probably be a bit more tired than I am right now. Big day. It's really important that I did get my nails done, redid, before I made this point about how difficult it is to undo the bind off when you're frogging a project. Because if I didn't, then the whole point would have totally been lost on you, I'm sure. But it is the only difficult bit of frogging a project, and the rest is 100% satisfying. So I'm sure you'll be very grateful for some brief respite from the sound of my voice. So let me play you a brief 20-second intermission of the satisfying sound of frogging a project to get back some beautiful yarn that you want to use in the future. There you go, delicious cake. This is actually going to go straight into the freezer because as I was unwinding it, I saw some moth eggs on it. And at first, I mean, I think if you've seen moth eggs before, obviously it kind of looks a little bit like dust. So at first I thought it was just dust, but it definitely is eggs. So it's going to go straight in the freezer because I've been burned before. There actually is no damage, I don't think, to the yarn yet, but the damage comes when the eggs hatch. A little bit grim. But yeah, as you will see with some of the later on projects, I have been burned by moth damage before, so we're not having that again. It's going to go and get frozen up. I did end up unwinding all of that post-run, and I think I jinxed the run because I said exactly how far we were going to go, and it just wasn't happening today. So we did 20k instead of 24. So I feel a little bit exhausted, but as I was getting ready, actually, like after the run and having a shower and stuff, I was thinking it's kind of the reverse of like, you know, when somebody says you look really tired because you're just not wearing any makeup, and me putting some makeup on relative to how I felt earlier on in the morning. Maybe I don't look quite as tired as I feel, or maybe that's just how I'd like to imagine it. But by way of a closing scene on this video, I'm just going to show you what I did with the embroidery on the shirt, and it is exquisite, if I do say so myself. So here she is. Ta-da! Here it is. You can obviously still see the imprint of where I had the embroidery hoop round the shirt. So this needs maybe probably like a steam just to make it look a little bit more finished, but I'm really, really pleased with it. I think it looks really cool. I think it's, to me, it's giving a little bit like classic rose back tattoo. That makes it look a little bit cooler to me. I don't have a cool rose tattoo right now. Maybe I'll have to get one to match. But I think on reflection, doing it as a visible mend has made me like this shirt even more. The sort of history of this shirt is that I got it in a charity shop maybe like 4 years ago, and I wore it to death. I wore it on a holiday to Croatia. There's lots of fun memories associated with this. And then having that huge rip in the back, it was like a tiny rip, and then I just kept wearing it. And obviously it got like bigger and bigger and bigger, and until the point where I literally couldn't wear it anymore. But doing the hemming web and the patch on the back of this, I think actually would have been sufficient. It probably would have been enough if I had done it really neatly, and I did it a bit scrappily, knowing that I was going to add this thread over the top. I had a little inspiration picture, and then I basically just copied that in a much simpler version. So I'll put the picture up on the screen so you can see what I was working from. But it's a little bit hard to find like horizontal embroidery patterns. A lot of them were for circular canvases like you would have on a hoop. Obviously I wanted this to kind of cover across the seam and the exact bit of the mend, so I had to amend it a little bit. But yeah, I think this is going to get a little bit more wear, a little bit more love. And that is where I'm going to end this part of the series. Thanks so much for watching as a kind of second segment of this. It's really motivating me to have a look at some of these things that have just been like hibernating and hidden and been a bit of a, almost like a point of shame for a few years. So I'm going to keep going with it, and I'm going to start the next segment in the series as soon as I'm done with this video. And I think that'll come out in about 4 weeks' time. So if you want to see that, if you want to make sure that you don't miss it, make sure that you're subscribed, make sure that you've got the notifications on, all those things, and then you'll be able to watch what I do with the rest of them, including with the Trinket cabinet, which has not quite got there yet, but it isn't so simple as just getting a varnish and then it's done. No, no, no. I have some other ideas for it, which you may disagree with. So stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.